Have you ever wondered why so many successful men, with access to everything they desire, yet feel a profound emptiness? Why do those who seem to have it all, money, recognition, and even relationships, continue to relentlessly pursue something they can't even name? The answer might surprise you. Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychiatrist, discovered a disturbing truth about male nature that modern society has completely ignored. It's not about sex, power, or status. It's about something much deeper and more primordial. Through decades of studying the human mind, Jung uncovered a secret that explains why men today are more lost than ever. An ancient desire buried beneath social expectations, which unfulfilled consumes the male soul from within. This discovery will radically transform your perception of the men around you, and perhaps even of yourself. Prepare to discover a truth no one has dared to express, the emptiness that success cannot fill. A scene is repeated daily in offices, mansions, and luxury cars around the world. A man looks out the window. He has everything he's ever dreamed of, but he feels an emptiness in his chest that seems to grow with each success. Jung calls this modern neurosis, a disease of the soul that particularly affects those who have followed all the rules of the social game. What is happening is both devastating and simple. Society teaches men from a young age that they should pursue three things: money, power, and recognition. Be successful, their parents tell them. Be strong, their friends shout. Be productive, the world demands, and they obey. They work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. They sacrifice family, health, dreams, all in the name of this sacred trio. But therein lies the problem Jung discovered. These goals are external. They are like a remedy for internal pain. Imagine trying to heal a heartache with arm surgery. It never works. It has worked, it never will. The harsh reality is that modern man has learned to seek validation where none exists. He accumulates zeros in his bank account, hoping to feel complete. He collects professional titles like war medals. He competes with other men in an endless game where no one really wins. Jung observed something fascinating about his male patients. The richest were often the most depressed, the most powerful, the most anxious, the most famous, the most lonely. It was as if success were an inverted magnet. The more we have, the emptier we feel. The fundamental problem is that our culture has created a false vision of humankind. A vision based on having, not being. A vision that measures value with numbers on spreadsheets, not with the depth of the soul. A vision that confuses movement with progress, noise with purpose. When a man finally gets everything he's ever wanted, he discovers the most terrifying truth. He's still the same fears, the same insecurities, the same emptiness. The only difference is that now he has fewer excuses not to face his true nature. Jung understood that this emptiness is not accidental, not a manufacturing defect, not a personal weakness. It is a signal, an alarm from the soul screaming that something fundamental is missing. It is the human psyche rebelling against a life built on false foundations. The tragedy is that many interpret this emptiness as proof that they need more of the same. More money, more power, more recognition. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The more fuel you throw on the fire, the hotter it burns. Society doesn't help. On the contrary, it fuels this illusion. Magazines show rich men smiling on yachts. Movies glorify the ruthless environment. Social media celebrates the entrepreneur who never sleeps. Everything conspires to keep men chasing mirages in the desert. But Jung knew something few dare admit. Emptiness is an invitation, a call to a much deeper and more meaningful journey. A journey that cannot be bought, earned, or printed on a business card. A journey within oneself, towards who one truly is, and not towards what the world imposes on us. Second, the masculine shadow discovered by Jung. Within every man lives a stranger, someone he fears to meet, avoids looking into the eyes, keeps locked away deep within his consciousness. Jung gave this stranger a name, the shadow. And discovering this hidden part of masculinity is perhaps the most disturbing and liberating revelation a man can have. The shadow is not evil as many believe. She represents everything a man has learned to reject within himself. She is the anger he cannot express, the sadness he cannot show, the vulnerability he cannot admit, the creativity he cannot explore, the sensitivity he cannot reveal. From childhood, the boy learns a cruel lesson. Men do not cry. Men do not show weakness. Men always know what to do. Whenever you feel something that doesn't fit this pattern, you repress it, pushing it away from the light. Over time, these rejected parts accumulate deep within the psyche, like rotting emotional debris. The problem is the shadow persists. It thrives in the darkness, grows, feeds on denial, gains power the more it is ignored, and over time, finds ways to manifest itself, sometimes subtly, through constant irritation, unexplained depression, or a persistent feeling that something is wrong. Other times it explodes into behaviors, destructive forces that man himself cannot comprehend. Jung observed that the most controlled men were often the most tormented by their shadow. Those who constructed perfect personalities, the impeccable executive, the exemplary father, the ideal husband, suffered most intensely from the inner pressure exerted by this rejected side. It was like living with a raging prisoner inside him. Modern society has made things worse. It has created a sanitized version of masculinity, clean, predictable, and socially acceptable. A man must be productive but never overly aggressive, strong but never threatening, confident but never arrogant. It's like a tightrope, impossible to balance. The male shadow contains not only the rejected negative aspects, but also enormous powers that have been wasted. The wild passion that could move mountains, the deep intuition that could solve complex problems, the primal courage that could face any challenge, the capacity to feel deeply that could create authentic connections. When a person denies their shadow, they don't get rid of it. They mutilate themselves. It's like trying to run with one leg tied behind your back. It may even work, but they'll never reach their full potential. They'll always live with a sense of incompleteness, as if they're missing an essential part. Jung discovered something revolutionary. Integrating the shadow is not an option for those who wish to live a fulfilling life. It's a necessary, though painful, process. It's about stopping pretending to be only the light and admitting that you're also the darkness. It's about accepting that you're not only the hero of your story, but also the villain. This process frightens many men because they fear that by embracing their shadow, they'll become bad people. In reality, it's quite the opposite. By ceasing to deny certain parts of yourself, they cease to control you. By accepting your anger, you can channel it constructively. By acknowledging your sadness, you can manage your losses. By admitting your vulnerability, you can create authentic connections. A hidden shadow is dangerous. A revealed shadow becomes power. The difference between a fragmented person and an integrated person is simple. One struggles with themselves, the other works with all their components. One wastes their energy repressing aspects of their nature. The other uses that energy to create and build. Jung knew that confronting the shadow was the first real step toward psychological maturity. Social maturity doesn't come from knowing how to behave in meetings or paying your bills on time, but from the profound maturity that comes from knowing and accepting yourself as you are, with all your complexity, contradictions, and hidden potential. Moreover, if you want to deepen your reflection and integrate your areas of shadow and light, check out the SIM Method ebook. This is a concise guide that can help you unleash your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. Third, the wounded warrior archetype. Every man carries a wound within him, even if he doesn't know how to name it. Jung discovered that deep within the male soul lives a warrior. He's not the one we see in the movies, decked out in muscles and weapons, but something much older and deeper. A warrior wounded as a child and never fully healed. This inner warrior represents the masculine life force, the energy that must protect, build, and guide. But for most modern men, this warrior is wounded, helpless, sometimes almost dead. This wound, which occurred at a very young age, when they were still children, has shaped their view of the world and of themselves. The warrior's wound is born from a universal but devastating experience. The realization that one is not enough. It could have been due to an absent father who never acknowledged his efforts, an overprotective mother who prevented him from being strong, peers who rejected him when he most needed to be included, teachers who made him feel inadequate, a society that criticized his natural impulses. What happened is tragic. The wounded child develops survival strategies that stay with them throughout their adult lives. Some become fierce warriors, men who fight the whole world because they sincerely struggle with their inner pain. Others become latent warriors, abandoning the fight altogether and leading modest, secure but meaningless lives. Jung observed that most people oscillate between these two extremes. Sometimes they explode with unbridled anger. Sometimes they retreat into frustrated passivity. Sometimes they want to conquer the world. Sometimes they have trouble getting out of bed. They are wounded warriors trying to find their place in a world that doesn't understand their nature. The tragedy is that our culture offers no way to heal this wound. On the contrary, it exploits it. The market sells the illusion that buying certain things, doing certain things, or engaging in certain behaviors will heal the wounded warrior. But it doesn't heal. It simply puts colorful bandages on a wound that bleeds from within. The wounded warrior expresses his pain in ways society doesn't understand. He may become a workaholic, seeking to prove his worth through his productivity. They constantly seek validation, needing others to tell them they are good enough. They can become controlling, seeking to dominate their external environment because they feel inner chaos. They may avoid emotional intimacy for fear that others will see their wounds. Jung discovered something powerful in this archetype. The warrior doesn't need to be fixed. They need to be honored. Wounds are not a flaw to be hidden, but a source of wisdom to be absorbed. Every true warrior bears scars. The difference is that some allow their wounds to weaken them, while others transform them into strength. The healing of the wounded warrior comes not from denying pain, but from overcoming it. It means stopping pretending everything is okay when it is. It means admitting that yes, you have been hurt, and that this pain has influenced your decisions, your relationships, and your way of being in the world. It means crying the tears you never shed, feeling the anger you've always repressed, acknowledging the fear you've always denied. But here's the secret few know. When the wounded warrior stops running from his pain and faces it head-on, something magical happens. The wound becomes a portal. Weakness transforms into compassion, fear into courage, anger into justice, sadness into depth. The healed warrior is not one who has never been wounded, but one who has transformed their wounds into wisdom. They no longer need to demonstrate their strength because they know it intimately. They no longer need external validation because they have found internal validation. They no longer need to control everything because they have learned to trust the flow of life. This integrated warrior has access to powers the wounded warrior could never have dreamed of. He can be strong without being cruel. He can lead without dominating. He can protect without controlling. He can love without losing himself. He can fight for just causes without destroying himself. Society desperately needs these healed warriors, not wounded warriors who cause the greatest suffering in the world, nor inactive warriors, but warriors who have transformed their pain into purpose, their wound into mission, their healing into service to others. Fourth, the quest for the lost inner father. In every man, there is an orphan, not necessarily because he has lost his biological father, but because he has lost the connection with the deep paternal energy that should inhabit him. Jung discovered that this absence of the inner father is one of the main causes of the modern masculine void, an ancestral thirst that no external conquest can satisfy. The inner father is not a person, it's a principle. It's that wise voice within you that knows which way to go when everything is confusing. It's the force that says, you can do this even if everyone tells you otherwise. It's the presence that gives you structure when your life is chaotic. It's the guide that shows you the way when you're lost in the dark. For most men, that voice is silent. That guide is absent. That strength lies dormant. And they spend their lives looking for it in the wrong places, in their superiors, their mentors, authority figures, hoping that someone outside will bring them what can only come from within. The essence of the inner father creates a particular psychological thirst. It is a thirst for guidance, for approval, for a purpose beyond mere survival. It is a thirst to feel part of something greater, to fulfill a worthwhile mission, to know that one's own existence has a profound meaning. And someone who observed that men, without a connection to their inner father, live reactive lives. They react to events instead of creating them. They follow scripts written by others instead of writing their own. They ask permission when they should be taking responsibility. They expect life to happen on its own, instead of letting it happen through them. Modern society has exacerbated this wound in ways Jung could hardly have imagined. Biological fathers are increasingly absent, absorbed by their work or their own unhealed wounds. Social structures have fragmented. The communities where boys learned to be men by observing other men. Male role models are distorted by the media, which only shows the superficial aspects of masculinity. The result is a generation of men who grew up without real initiation, without real rites of passage, without real mentors to guide them from childhood to adulthood. They may have adult bodies and responsibilities, but they carry within them a lost child, searching for a father they never found. This search for the lost father manifests itself in sometimes less obvious ways. Some men become eternal rebels, fighting against all authority, because they are truly struggling with the absence of a healthy inner authority. Others become excessively submissive, constantly looking for someone to dictate their conduct, having failed to develop their own inner compass. The truth Jung discovered is both liberating and terrifying. No one can give you back the inner father you've lost. No mentor, no matter how wise. No boss, no matter how inspiring. No guru, no matter how enlightened. The inner father can only be awakened from within, through a process that requires courage, patience, and a willingness to grow, even through pain. Awakening to your inner father begins with a radical decision. Stop waiting for someone to save you and take responsibility for your life. Not just an external responsibility, paying your bills and fulfilling your obligations, but the profound responsibility of becoming who you truly are, regardless of the expectations or approval of others. This process isn't easy. It involves facing all the times you've betrayed yourself to please others. It involves acknowledging the times you've given up your personal authority. It involves accepting that you are the author of your story, not a victim of circumstance. It involves stopping blaming your absent father, your overbearing mother, or an unjust society, and starting to build from where you are now. When your inner father awakens, everything changes. You stop seeking external validation because you find inner validation. You stop following other people's patterns because you discover your own. You stop feeling lost because you develop your own compass. You stop feeling small because you connect to something bigger within yourself. He who finds his inner father becomes his own father, not selfishly, but in the deepest sense of the word. He fully assumes responsibility for his growth, his healing, and his contribution to the world. And paradoxically, the more he becomes his own father, the more he becomes capable of being a father, a mentor and a guide to those who are still searching. 5. The myth of male independence. The biggest lie men have ever been told is that they must be independent, that needing someone is a sign of weakness, that vulnerability is a flaw, that asking for help is an admission of failure. Jung discovered that this lie not only isolates men, but kills them from the inside, creating a loneliness so profound they can't even fathom it. From a young age, boys learn a cruel lesson. A real man stands tall. When they fall and cry, he listens, gets up, and stops crying. When they need help, they are told, "You must learn to stand tall." When they express fear, they are told a man is afraid of nothing. Each of these phrases is a stone that locks away their ability to connect. The result is devastating. Grown men who would rather die than admit they're hurting, who choose isolation over seeking support, who build emotional walls so high they can't even climb them, who live entire lives without a single deep friendship, without a real conversation about their fears, their dreams, and their pain. Jung understood that this masculine independence is actually a prison disguised as freedom. The man who believes he needs no one is, in reality, desperately needy, but unable to admit this need even to himself. He is like a shipwrecked man who refuses a lifeline, convinced that it makes him weak. Modern society has cruelly intensified this illusion. Success is measured by the ability to depend on no one. The masculine ideal has become that of the lone wolf, the self-made man, the entrepreneur who built everything from scratch. But this is a fantasy. No one builds anything alone. Behind every successful man are dozens of people who have supported, guided, and nurtured him. The irony is that the most independent men are often the most dependent, but in unhealthy ways. They rely on alcohol to relax, on work to feel valued, on their achievements to validate their existence, and on their social roles to define their identity. They simply traded healthy human dependencies for destructive ones that didn't threaten their solid image. Jung discovered that behind the mask of masculine independence lies a deep terror. The fear of abandonment. The man who insists on not depending on anyone is often the one who fears rejection the most. He prefers chosen solitude, the possibility of imposed solitude. It's better to be alone by choice than to risk being abandoned. This false independence comes at a high price. Men die earlier, not only from physical problems, but also from a lack of emotional support. Their suicide rate is higher because they face their crises alone. They develop more stress-related illnesses because they have no one to share their worries with. Their lives are emptier because they have severed the connections that give their existence meaning. The myth of male independence also destroys relationships. How can a man who believes he needs no one create true intimacy? How can he be vulnerable with his partner if vulnerability is seen as a weakness? How can he ask for help in difficult times if it damages his image as a strong support system? The truth Jung revealed is revolutionary. Interdependence is not a weakness, it is strength. The most powerful men in history weren't independent. They were deeply connected. They had mentors who guided them, partners who supported them, friends who encouraged them, and communities that supported them. They understood that true strength lies in the ability to give and receive support. Shattering the myth of male independence requires a different kind of courage. It's not about having the courage to face external enemies, but about facing one's own vulnerability. It means admitting that yes, we need others, that yes, we sometimes don't know what to do, that yes, we have fears, doubts, insecurities, that yes, we are human. This change doesn't happen overnight. Decades of conditioning aren't easily erased, but they begin with small steps. Sharing a concern with a friend, asking for help when you feel overwhelmed, admitting when you don't understand something, showing gratitude to those who support you, creating spaces where you can be yourself without fear of judgment. Those who overcome the myth of independence discover something extraordinary. He doesn't weaken, he strengthens, because he now has access to the power of community, collaboration, and mutual support. He multiplies his strength instead of limiting it. He builds bridges instead of walls. He creates legacies that surpass what any one person could create. 6. The ancestral bond that was broken. There is an echo that resonates deep within the male soul, an ancient call that most modern men have never heard. Jung discovered that men today live disconnected from an ancient lineage of masculine wisdom, like uprooted trees trying to survive in barren soil. For millennia, boys have become men through rituals, traditions, and teachings passed down from generation to generation. Once upon a time, there were male communities where the profound secrets of life, love, work, and death were passed down through stories, shared experiences, and direct advice. There was a continuity, a common thread connecting the past, present, and future. All of this has been shattered. The Industrial Revolution uprooted men from their communities. Modernity has ridiculed ancient traditions as superstitions. Urbanization has fragmented extended families. Individualism has transformed each individual into an isolated island. In just a few generations, we have lost a legacy of ancestral wisdom. Jung understood that this rupture has left modern man profoundly orphaned. He has lost not only his connection to his direct ancestors, but also an entire ancestral conception of the human being. It's as if a musician has lost not only the score, but also the memory of the musical sound. The result of this disconnect is devastating. Modern man invents his masculinity from scratch, without solid references, seeking to discover for himself what previous generations have taught him through living tradition. It's like trying to build a house without plans, tools, or architectural knowledge. It's possible, but infinitely more difficult, and often with disastrous results. This loss of ancestral connection manifests itself in subtle but profound ways. People feel a fundamental lack in life, but they can't pin it down. They feel a loneliness that goes beyond the lack of human beings. It's lonely to be disconnected from one's lineage, They feel like they're improvising a role they should instinctively know. Modern society has attempted to replace this ancestral wisdom with self-help manuals, life coaches, and success guides. But these superficial solutions cannot replace the depth of traditions proven over hundreds of generations. It's like trying to replace an ancient forest with plastic plants. From a distance, it may look green, but it's devoid of life. Jung discovered that echoes of this lost wisdom still linger in the collective male unconscious. Deep archetypes harbor ancestral memories of hunting, protection, building, leadership, and rites of passage. But for most men, these archetypes remain latent, masked by layers of modern social conditioning. This ancestral disconnect has also deprived men of true models for healthy aging. In traditional cultures, older men were repositories of wisdom, respected for their experience, and sought out for their guidance. Today, people fear aging because they see no value in it and have no defined role as elders. They don't know how to be useful when they are no longer productive in the capitalist sense. Reconnecting with our ancestral heritage doesn't mean returning to living in caves or rejecting modernity. It means searching ancient traditions for eternal principles that still apply today. This means honoring the wisdom of your ancestors and adapting it to contemporary challenges. It means recognizing that you are part of a lineage that extends far beyond your individual lifetime. This reconnection can begin in simple but powerful ways. By discovering your family history, not just names and dates, but also the struggles, victories, and wisdom of your male ancestors. Studying ancient spiritual traditions that honored the masculine path. Creating personal rituals that mark important transitions in your life. Seeking out older mentors who preserve some of this lost wisdom also means recognizing that you are an ancestor to the men who will come after you. That your choices, healing, and evolution affect not only you, but also future generations. That breaking the destructive patterns in your life also breaks them for your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. That healing your male lineage is a sacred mission. When a man reconnects with his ancestral heritage, something profound awakens within him. He ceases to feel isolated and recognizes himself as part of a larger continuum. Stop inventing masculinity from scratch and tap into proven wisdom. Stop feeling lost and find your place in a story much bigger than your personal life.